Hello students, we have started with the morphology of the flowering plants, and that we have finished with the introduction part, and later we have discussed with the root system. So in root system mainly we have discussed with the total structure of the root, types of root, and now we are doing with the functions of the root. We have major functions of the root. The two main functions are anchorage and also absorption. Other than that, we have some other important functions which are mainly conducted by the root system. That is what we are discussing, and in that we have started with the first important function, that is storage. So in the last lecture I have mainly discussed with the storage function of the root. In that we have seen regarding the taproot system, which is helping in the storage, and even the fibrous root system, which is also meant for storage. So different type of plants with different adaptations, they are mainly storing the starch. We all know the starch is mainly present concentrated in the amyloplast. We have certain cells which are the parenchyma cells, which are modified to store starch, which are white in color. We generally call them as amyloplast. Just like chloroplast will be green in color due to the storage of the chlorophyll, right? So they are green in color because the pigments. In the same way, the amyloplast will be white in color. They are mainly storing the starch material. In the same way, the plants even store some proteins, and the cells which are storing the proteins are said to be the proteinoplast, and sometimes they will store oil. When they store oil, we call them as elaioplasts. So all these are modified chloroplasts, the simple parenchymatous cells which are modified at each level based upon the storage compound. They are given different terms. Okay, so what are the different terms? And I have told you: chloroplast for pigments, amyloplast for starch, proteinoplast for protein, and also we have elaioplasts. They are storing the oil. So here mainly we have discussed with the roots which are mainly storing the starch material. Means what is present inside the root? Amyloplasts are present, which are modified chloroplast. In the last lecture mainly we have discussed with the starch storing root system. One is taproot system and the fibrous root system. Fibrous root system is also known as the adventitious root system. And today we are discussing with other important functions of the root, and first we'll be starting with the function of the root. Mainly it is meant for respiration. So another important function of the root is respiration. So we all know respiration means generally in mammals, if you take respiration, what will happen in respiration, children? We take in oxygen, leaving out the carbon dioxide. But is it required for the plants? Do plants respire? Yes, they even respire, just like all other organisms. Even the plants respire, but mainly their oxygen which is released during the photosynthesis, it is utilized by themselves. Okay, so whatever oxygen that is produced in the process of photosynthesis, that is reutilized by the plants. Then if the photosynthesis, if it is not performed, what about the night period? So we all know that in the day, mainly when there is sunlight, the plants will perform photosynthesis. So during that time the respiration will be taking place, and the oxygen which is released in the process of photosynthesis, it will be utilized by the plant, and also it is released outside. Okay, then what about the dark? Or what about in the night time? What will happen in the night time, children? There is no sunlight, but even the plant has to respire. Why we require oxygen? We all know different type of substances, so proteins, or you can see the carbohydrate, fat molecules, everything has to be broken down in the presence of oxygen itself. Okay, so generally every organism, it requires oxygen for their respiration. To liberate the energy, the molecules has to be broken down, and this process is mainly taking place in the presence of oxygen, and this oxygen is even essential for the plants. The same thing will happen, but mainly the photosynthesis is helping the plant to release the oxygen in the daytime. But what about the night time? Even the plant requires oxygen. Okay, so that is mainly taken from the external environment. Then what is the need for the plant to have this respiratory roots? So generally roots have the most important function, absorption and anchorage. and even we have discussed with the storage. Then where you can see these respiratory roots, why a plant is adapting a situation to have these respiratory roots. We all know the outer body of the plant or the external part which is visible to us is the shoot system, and it can respire. Why? Because it is exposed to the environment. Then what about the root? Do the root respire? Yes, they do respire. Generally, whatever the roots that are present for the plants, they even respire, but they will get this oxygen mainly from the air gaps or air spaces which are left in between the soil particles. So whatever oxygen that is present in between the soil and the mud, that will be extracted by the root, and the root tissue will be surviving. Then what about the certain plants which are mainly present in the damp soils? We all know there are certain plants which are growing in marshy habitats, saline habitats, or mainly some of the plants, if you observe in the coast, even in the near the sea or ocean, the coastal area, many plants are surviving, and all these plants are mainly having the waterlogged soils. So whenever the water is filled in these air gaps, how could the root could get this oxygen, children? There will be some problem here, right? In order to survive such conditions, the plants which are generally growing in such habitats, like you can see the saline habitat, marshy habitats, or wherever the soil is logged with water, damp surface will be present, the plants are mainly producing a special kind of roots which are known as the respiratory roots. Generally the roots do respire, but here what will happen, the roots cannot respire. Why? Because the respiration, the oxygen intake will be very low, because the oxygen is completely absent, the air gaps are absent, so oxygen will be absent here. So what the plant will do, it will produce some external roots which are exposed to the air, and they will collect this air and they will supply to all the other roots which are underlying. Okay, so let us see with the picture so that it is very easy for you to understand. Generally, these type of respiratory roots are seen in the plants, and these plants are generally said to be the mangrove plants. We all know the mangrove plants are mainly present in the coastal region, so the seashore region occupied by these mangrove plants. And these mangrove plants, they mainly live in this estuarine habitats, wherever there is a mix of this ocean and river water. At that region, estuarine habitats we call it, and at that region mainly these mangroves are present. So what is the major challenge these mangroves are facing? The mangroves are mainly lacking this oxygen. So mainly the roots which are present on these plants, associated with these plants, are submerged in the water or the soil which is mainly logged with water. So what will happen? They need to respire. Even if the tissue has to be living, it has to get some oxygen. And how this oxygen it is getting? It is getting this oxygen from the special roots which are produced by the same plant, and these roots are known as the respiratory roots. Okay, so if you look at this plant, this is a mangrove plant, and this mangrove tree, let us say tree, this mangrove tree, it is present at the coastal region, and they have these normal roots. So underground they will be having the shallow normal roots, and some of the roots are conical and they are spike-like structures. Okay, conical spike-like structures, pencil-like structures, and they are generally produced above the surface of the earth, or you can say above the soil. So normally the roots are underground, but the respiratory roots which are produced in these plants are mainly, they will be produced above the soil. So you can see the tree which is surrounded by these conical sharp roots, and these roots are known as the respiratory roots. Then what is the function of these respiratory roots, children? So normal roots, they are very they will be mainly present, but they are not rooted completely to the underground. Mainly these are shallow and they are present at the outer surface. and they even need oxygen. Oxygen for the stem and the leaves are generally obtained from the air directly, but for the roots the oxygen will not be present. Why? Because it is waterlogged. Then they will be producing these modified roots which will help in respiration, means they will be having small pores on them, and these pores are known as lenticels. Lenticels are simply the modified stomata. We all know for gaseous exchange in plants we have stomata, the guard cells. In the same way, these respiratory roots, they will carry a small pores for gaseous exchange, and these pores are known as the lenticels. Okay, the structure is very simple. It is analogous to the stomata, but it is similar, it is not same. The lenticels are placed generally on the respiratory roots. They will help in the gaseous exchange. So through this respiratory roots, the oxygen will be taken in and it is supplied to the normal roots. Okay, so all these roots which are present in the vicinity of the mangrove plants, generally the mangrove plants will show the these respiratory roots, and these roots are present around, surrounding the mangrove plant. Numerous roots are produced here. Okay, and these roots, they will be mainly helping in the respiration. Okay, so here we will see the complete structure of this respiratory root. The respiratory root, it is also known as a pneumatophore. Okay, so one root, so here I have taken one respiratory root and I have given the diagram here, children. So this is the pneumatophores. I have given two pneumatophores here. Pneumatophores means I am talking about the respiratory root. Respiratory root is also known as pneumatophore. Okay, so these pneumatophores have small pores over them, and these pores are known as nematodes. Nematode means the pore present on them. The nematode is the pore which is present on them. It is known as nematode, or also called as lenticel. Okay, so we have two names for this. So both are same here, children. Lenticel or nematode are the similar terms. Nematophore means respiratory root. The structures present above the nematophore is known as a nematode. Nematode is nothing but the pores present on the respiratory root, and these nematodes are also known as lenticels. The major function of the lenticel is to carry oxygen to the roots. Okay, so this is the place where the exchange will be mainly taking place. So we have different kinds of mangroves. Mangroves are of different kinds. Some of the mangroves, they will be very heavy and they are having a large branches. So along with some supporting roots, they will be having, we generally say them as the prop roots. The next thing which we'll be discussing here, the prop roots are pillar-like roots, and these roots are mainly seen in the case of the banyan tree. Have you ever observed this banyan tree, children? We have numerous roots which are produced from the branches of the tree. In order to support the heavy weights of the branches, they will be having the pillar-like roots, and those roots are known as prop roots. Okay, so that we will discuss in the next section here. But why I am discussing with the prop roots here, some of the mangroves will not have, if I am saying mangroves means you should not get confused that all the mangroves will have these respiratory roots. Not all, children. There are certain mangrove plants that will show the respiratory roots. Some of the mangroves, they will have different adaptation. They will be producing the prop roots on which they will have lenticels. That is why I am discussing with the prop roots here. They will be having, the mangrove plants will have the pillar-like roots above which they will have lenticels. And there are certain mangrove plants where the trunk will be having the small pores, and that will help in the respiration. The trunk which is present below, this trunk will be having small pores on them, and they will help in the respiration process. So different mangroves which are growing mainly in the damp and the swampy areas, they mainly have different type of adaptations. Not only that, they also have different kind of adaptations to survive in high salinity. High salinity means some of the mangroves, they will be living in the salinity around 60 ppt, that is parts per trillion, and there are certain mangrove plants which are even growing more than the 60, means around 90 ppt. Okay, so the salinity level is too high and it is tolerated by these plants with different kind of adaptations. Okay, but respiratory roots, for respiration mainly they have the respiratory roots, but they even have certain challenges, like even if the seed is produced, how the seed has to be grown. The seeds are also having certain adaptations like vivipary. We call it as vivipary. Even in the mammals you see the vivipary. Vivipary means the young ones are born. In the same way here, in these plants, what will happen, children, when the seed is produced, it is not directly released or it will be falling on the ground. These plants will be holding the seeds at least for 1 year, and till then it will grow into a propagule. So a seed, it will be germinated, it is still attached to the parent plant, and they will mainly appear like a cigar shaped propagules. So the seed, it is converted into a small plant, and later this will be protected by external sheath and it is dropped into the soil. Later they are carried by the ocean currents and they will reach the shore again, and then they will be germinated. Okay, so this is how they are protecting themselves. So all these mangrove plants, they mainly exclude the competition. Competition will not be present. Generally, if you see, even in any coast of any coastal line, mainly if mangroves are present, generally a single type of mangrove plant is present. Why? Because that type of mangrove plant is adjusted to that, and other plants, they cannot survive in those conditions. So mainly mangrove plants are seen in the shore and they cannot be mixed with other type of plants. Why? Because they have extreme conditions which can be which these plants can be adjusted with. Okay, so this is how the plants are mainly being protected. So for reproduction, they will be showing vivipary, and for respiration, they will be mainly producing the pneumatophores. Pneumatophores are the roots. I am telling you, the pores present on them is known as the nematode or lenticel. For respiration, nematodes, and for seed propagation or reproduction, they mainly show viviparous nature. And also to excrete this excessive salt, the root hairs are specialized in excreting these salts, and also even some of the leaves are present, and these leaves are succulent and they will be having the glands which will excrete the salt. Just like our sweat glands, mainly they will be having certain glands which will excrete this salt. These are all these mangrove plants are mainly the salt excretors. Okay, so all these special type of adaptations are seen in the case of mangrove plants. That is not required here. Mainly what we are discussing is with the respiratory roots. Respiratory roots are seen in certain mangrove plants. Should not think that all the mangroves will have these respiratory roots. Certain type of mangroves will be showing this. Mostly they will show this respiratory roots. Why? Because they have the damp or we can say swampy areas. They are mainly living in that area, so they are restricted to get this oxygen from the normal roots. In order to supply the oxygen, they have the special adaptation, that is the formation of the respiratory roots. Okay, so here mainly we are discussing with the examples. Now children, we have 4 examples. Regarding your NEET, all the 4 examples are even important here. So what are the 4 examples we have? One is Avicennia, Rhizophora, Bruguiera, and Sonatia. Sonatia, Bruguiera, Rhizophora, Avicennia, all these 4 are examples of the plants which are showing the respiratory roots, and all these 4 are generally the mangrove plants here. Okay, even I have discussed in the last lecture regarding Pandanus. So what is the common name of Pandanus, children? Pandanus is also known as the screw pine. And this Pandanus, it is even famous. Mainly it is used in Asian continent, mainly in their cuisine. We all know some people in India, they mainly call it as meetathar or kevra water. It is generally used for its delicious aroma. The leaves are mainly aromatic, and such water, it is mainly extracted from the leaves of Pandanus. Okay, so this Pandanus is also a mangrove plant, and this is also an example for, I have not given this example, but I am telling you the first important thing which you have to remember is Pandanus will show the multiple root cap. That is the only exception we have. Generally the roots are having a single root cap which is unicellular, but the Pandanus will be having many layers of this root cap, and they are mainly seen on the trail roots. Trail root means they have the prop roots, not the main root, children. Even in Pandanus you have to remember that there are certain branching pillar like roots. I have told you regarding the prop roots, just like banyan tree, they will be having some oblique roots to support the plant, and as it is a mangrove, mainly it requires support, and that support is given by the prop roots. And these prop roots which are growing towards the earth's surface, they will be covered by the multiple root caps. Okay, so this is the importance of Pandanus, and I have not given the example, you can note it down. Pandanus is also an example for the respiratory roots. So what are the 4 examples, children? Abyssinia, Rhizophora, we have Bruguera, Sonetia. So here you can make a small code, bars, okay, B-A-R-S, bars. Okay, all the 4 examples. Next coming to the second type of root, and this root now we are discussing with the another type of function of the root, that is the support for heavy branches, or you can say support for weak stems. Some of the plants are very weak or delicate, and due to some you can say sometimes the harsh winds or heavy winds, when they will be erased, the plants will be easily broken. In order to support these plants, there are extra protection given by the modified roots, and these roots are the supporting roots. Not only that, some of the plants are present which are very heavy, just like your banyan tree, rubber tree. In these plants the branches are very heavy, where there are many chances for the breakage of these branches, and hence they have some extra support. So that we will be discussing. So what is the second function we have learned, children, regarding the respiration? First we have discussed the storage root, which will help in storage of food material, and second we have discussed with the respiration, which will mainly help in the respiratory roots, which mainly help in the respiration. Now we are discussing with the roots which are meant for extra support to the plants. Okay, so in that again we have 2 types of support. What are the 2 types of support I will be discussing? One, the support given to the heavy branches, or you can say the large huge plants, and there are roots which will give support to the weaker plants. Okay, so that 2 type of roots that we will be discussing now. With your NEET, it is important to remember here the respiratory roots are the modified tap roots. How these respiratory roots are produced, children? They are produced from underground. So these are the tap roots of the plants, and these tap roots in turn they are modified and they will be produced as a respiratory root. So what are these respiratory roots, children? These are modified tap roots. This is very important, children. Mainly the questions are coming from this area. You will be confused with this. We have adventitious root, we have tap roots. So wherever it is required, I will be definitely telling you whether it's a modification of a tap root or a fibrous root. So even in the last lecture we have discussed with the storage roots, where I have mainly pointed out the difference and modifications of the adventitious as well as the tap root. This is very important with your NEET. Okay, so coming to the respiratory root, it is also a modified tap root. Some of the tap roots will be modified and they will be growing positively phototropic and negatively geotropic. Generally the root will be growing, how it will grow, children? The root will be growing positively geotropic and negatively phototropic. Why? Because they are present inside the soil. They are going towards gravity and they will be staying away from the light. We call them as positively geotropic, negatively phototropic. But how are these respiratory roots? This may be, sometimes these questions may be asked. How are the respiratory roots? Respiratory roots are growing towards the sunlight, that is positively phototropic, and they are negatively geotropic. Why? Because they are growing in the air towards the light. They are not growing inside or towards the soil, so they are said to be the negatively geotrophic. Okay, so this is the major difference here. Okay, next coming to the two type of roots now. So next we have the prop roots and stilt roots. Both are for support. Prop roots are mainly the pillar like thick roots which are mainly meant to support the heavy branches of the plant. And stilt roots are the ones which are slightly thin and they are mainly helping in the support of the weaker stems. Okay, some of the plants which are weak like grasses, mainly the family Graminae, they mainly have the weaker stems, and those plants are mainly supported by the stilt roots. Okay, so both these are, I am telling you this children, I am telling you mainly here why, because both are the modified adventitious root. So here I have told you the respiratory roots are the modified tap roots, but whatever we are discussing from here till the end, all of the root modifications are the modified adventitious root. Okay, so let us see with the first adventitious root modification, that are the prop roots here. What are prop roots? Generally these prop roots are seen in the case of banyan tree or ficus. Banyan tree, what is the scientific name of banyan tree? Ficus bengalensis. Ficus bengalensis is banyan tree, and Ficus elastica is rubber tree. Okay, so rubber tree and banyan tree both belong to the same family, and hence they have the common genus here, generic name, the Ficus elastica rubber tree, Ficus bengalensis, which is the banyan tree. Okay, many other plants we have, but mainly we have two important examples to learn here. So these two plants generally they have the prop roots. What are prop roots? Let us see first regarding the normal root. What is the function of the normal root here? So here this is a plant, and the plant will have normal roots which are underground, and they are doing the same function, anchorage and absorption will be done, and this is a tap root. Clear with this? Now, as these plants will have heavy branches to hold, the plants will need extra support, and this extra support, how this support is given? Some of the branches, they will produce the roots which are growing vertically downward, so from above to the ground. So these roots, how these roots are growing children? Prop roots are growing from the branches to the ground. They are vertically growing downwards, straight like pillars, and these roots are giving support to the heavy branches. So there will be the central trunk, and beside these central trunk we have many other roots, and these roots are attached to the branches. So from the branches they will be hanging, slowly they will be growing, and they will reach the soil surface, and they will later establish a support completely when they touch the ground. Such roots are said to be the prop roots. Okay, so these prop roots that will give a false appearance. If you see the prop roots, they are growing, when they are increasing in size, it will give you an appearance, you cannot even distinguish where is the main trunk and where is the prop root. So even we have oldest and largest tree in India in the botanical gardens of Calcutta, and it is spread over 14,500 square meters, that is approximately 3.5 acres of land. Okay, so that is one of the biggest banyan tree in the world which has a wide spread. So for that plant, for such kind of plants, we cannot even distinguish where is the initial trunk and where are these prop roots. Why? Because these prop roots will grow same like that of the trunk. They will build in its size, the height even, they will be showing the secondary growth, and they will grow into the large trunk-like structures. Okay, so this is how the prop roots are growing, and these are growing vertically downwards, and once they reach the soil, they will be rooted and they will be giving support to the heavy branches of the plants. And these plants even have some pores which will help in the respiration, but we are not concerned with that, mainly because these prop roots are mainly meant for the support in these plants. Wherever it is required, just like I have given some examples where mangroves are having some prop roots and which are even have some lenticels, and they mainly along with the support function, they even help in the respiration. So that is a different case. But in the case of Ficus bengalensis and elastica, the plants are mainly having these prop roots for the support. Okay. So what are the two examples, children? Ficus elastica and Ficus bengalensis. These are modified adventitious root. Why these are adventitious roots? Why? Because they are simply, we all know that any root which is produced other than the radical, we call it as adventitious root. So this is also an adventitious root. Why? Because it is raised from the branch of the plant. Clear? Next. So this is regarding the second type, that is a prop root. And another one, we have the stilt root. What is the stilt root? There are certain weak stems or weak plants which need extra support, and these extra support is given by the stilt roots. So here if you observe, this is the normal root. This is a monocot plant. Generally in monocots, that is the grass family, Graminae, they have the weaker stems and they mainly have the fibrous root. We all know the fibrous roots will be present for these plants. So what are the examples I have given here? Giames means maize, sugarcane, we have jowar. All these plants will be mainly having this kind of stilt roots. So what are these stilt roots? We will see. First we will look into the normal roots which are present. What are the normal roots generally seen in grasses? Those are the fibrous roots. So we have underground fibrous roots here. And for here, if you see, these are the dicot plants and they will be having the taproot system. And these prop roots are adventitious root. So you must be very clear with this. Mainly you have to distinguish these roots, children. Why? Because a question may be asked from any of this section. Anything they might ask regarding the adventitious, taproot, modification, anything they can ask. So you must be clear with this concept. So completely I am giving details of each and everything here. So here we have the taproot, along with that we have adventitious root. Then what about the stilt root here? Stilt root means mainly seen in grasses. So grasses, we all know they will have the fibrous root system. So underground will be the fibrous root system, and above if you see, the stem will be present. And how is the stem? Just imagine the structure of the sugarcane. We all know the sugarcane will have nodes and internodes, right? So we have some circular ring-like structures, and these are nothing but the nodes. We all know the nodes are present on the stem. So they have the stiff and straight stems, and they will be having nodes. So from each node at the lower region, not the whole plant, children, mainly at the lower region, some of the nodes to 5 to 6 length of nodes will be mainly producing the special kind of roots other than the underground fibrous roots. Underground fibrous roots are common, they are commonly present, but what extra they will carry? They will be having some extra modified adventitious roots. So we have here the adventitious roots again. Why? Because they are produced from the stem. If they are produced from the stem, they are said to be the adventitious roots. So whatever adventitious roots are present are generally seen attached in a wall-like fashion, in a circular fashion around the node of these plants, and they will be growing downwards and they reach the soil and they will give the support. So we have fibrous root for absorption and also the anchorage. Along with that, we have extra support from the aerial side or from outside, and these extra support roots are said to be the stilt roots. Why they are said to be stilt root? Because they are obliquely, generally they are obliquely present, attached to the plant, and they are generally present around the node in a oval, or you can see in a circular fashion, and these roots are said to be the stilt roots. Okay, so here the normal roots are seen in blue here, and the red colored ones you observe, children, all these red colored roots are originating from the stem at the nodal region, and they are arranged in a wall, and these roots are said to be the stilt roots. So these are grown up stilt roots which are reaching the soil, and they produce again roots beneath the soil, and they will give support. They will be generally present in obliques. Okay, they will be present like this. So they will grow in oblique fashion, and they will be reaching the soil to give the extra support. So these are the second wall of roots. In that way, 3 to 4 walls of the roots are generally produced, and all of them they will reach, and they will be having some oblique pattern, and they will be giving support to the plant. Okay, so such type of roots are said to be the stilt roots. So where you can see the stilt root, we have some examples I have given here. One is the Zea maize. Zea maize is our maize, and that is corn, maize. And we have sugarcane, children, Saccharum officinarum, that is sugarcane. And the third example is sorghum bicolor, that is the jawar. Jawar plant is called as sorghum bicolor. Scientific name of jawar is sorghum bicolor. Scientific name of sugarcane is Saccharum officinarum. And scientific name for maize is Zea maize. That is very easy. Why? Because it is matching, almost similar here. Okay. So these are the three important examples I have given. Along with that, there is another example, that is Pandanus. So Pandanus, so where we have studied, we have to recall whenever we have the same example we are studying, we have to think, we have three type of modifications we have studied for Pandanus. One, I have told you with the multiple root cap. Secondly, we have discussed the respiratory roots. Respiratory roots are seen in Pandanus. And third thing which we are studying now is the stilt roots. So what type of roots we have in Pandanus? Pandanus is a mangrove. Pandanus will have the prop roots, and the prop roots will be having the multiple root caps. And the third thing I have told you, they have the respiratory roots. And the fourth thing which we are discussing now is with the stilt roots. Even they have the oblique stilt roots. Okay, all these are mainly seen in the case of Pandanus. So Pandanus is example here. Sometimes the questions may be asked like this. All the features are given on one side and they will be asking to match with the plant which are showing all these features. Simply it is Pandanus. Okay. So this is how you will be getting some questions here. So now we will be discussing the other modifications of the root. So now today we have mainly discussed with the two important functions of the root. One, I have discussed with the root responsible for respiration, and one, the root which is helping in the support, giving support to the plants. Okay, in that support, for weak stems, if it is giving support, it is stilt root. Modified, it is simply adventitious root. And below we have the fibrous root. And another thing which we have discussed, the prop root. Prop root for heavy plants or heavy branches, they will support like pillars. Okay, and these are mainly the adventitious roots. Again, we have the taproot below for the ficus, bengalensis and elastica, and we have prop roots beside. Okay, so this is regarding the two important functions. Other important functions other than the storage, we have discussed the two functions totally. Now we have finished with the three important functions. Next we will see what are the other functions which can be attributed to the root.